This is the 2025 Kia EV6 GT facelift, and if you've watched any car YouTube recently, you'll probably know that this thing is faster in a straight line than the Ferrari Pura Sangue, which was confirmed on a now famous Car Wow video with Matt Watson. Now I'm here today to find out whether this could be the ultimate all-rounder for £60,000. That's right, 60 grand will get you something faster than a Ferrari and practical to use as your daily driver with over 270 miles of electric range. But is it any good, or is it too soft compared to its sister car, the IONIQ 5N? Well, that's what I'm here to find out today. So I'm going to take this car out on the road, I'm going to give you a full tour and tell you what I think. And if you're interested in the standard Kia EV6, then please do have a look in the description below where you will find that video as well. But before we head out in the EV6 today, I just want to let you know that if you're looking for a new car, whether that be one of these or something completely different, then do check us out at Players Cars Premium in the description below, because they are one of the best and easiest ways of finding a used car, because you can contact them 24/7 via WhatsApp. No need to wait around for pesky emails. Just let them know exactly what you want, and if they don't have it, they can source one for you. I just say, I want this car in this spec, I've got a part X, whatever it might be, just let them know and they will do their best to sort you out with one of the best APR rates in the country for finance and nice reliable sourcing options with the option to have free home delivery. So if you are looking for a new car, do check them out in the description below, and don't forget to say that I sent you. So then let's take a look around the EV6 GT. So this starts at around £60,000 here in the UK, and that is actually a good price for what you're getting, and I'll go on to why in a little bit, but let's give you some of the headline stats. So range, not quite as good as some of the competition, unfortunately, 279 miles max, but you do get up to 250 kilowatt fast charging, and you get power wise up to 641 horsepower in launch control mode. So you do have to go for a bit of motion to get that full power figure, but it is a very quick car. 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds in the launch control mode and around 4.5 seconds in your standard modes. And it is also cheaper than the pre-facelift model, so they have made some improvements, including upping the battery from 77.4 kilowatt hours to 84 kilowatt hours. But they have reduced the cost of entry in the UK, at least anyway. I won't go into the standard EV6, but I do have a full review of that on the channel as well, so please do go and check that out in the description. They start from around £39,000, and I would say are still a very solid option in the EV market. So in terms of the spec, you do get pretty much all the stuff you get on high-end standard EV6, including all the driver assist functions, adaptive cruise control, a 14-speaker Meridian sound system, 12.3-inch dual displays inside, but this one you do also get 21-inch wheels as standard with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's fitted from factory, which is really nice. Electronic LSD with lots of adjustment. The only real options are colours. So the one you see here is Wolf Grey Metallic, which is about £700 as an option, and you can also get a matte blue option, which is really nice, for about 1,500 quid. So it's nice and sunny out here. It's a really good opportunity to have a proper look around this thing. I think with these additional aggressive touches to the bumpers, this does look like a really nice car, and I think the combination of this paint and these wheels as well as the green accents make this really stand out. This gets tons of looks wherever I go. I mean, just look at these wheels. So these are the standard wheels that are included, wrapped in that Pilot Sport 4S with the kind of the checkered flag inscription around the edge as well. And look at those massive brakes, the big brake calipers, just really looks the part. And you can see that the typical EV6 silhouette is still present as ever, which has a really nice profile to it, especially with these large wheels. It's got that kind of tapered back with the spoiler, and you've got your charge flat back here as well, so that's nice and easy to use. You literally just give it a little bit of a tap and that will open right up for you, and it shows your charge level as well, and I can just do, and it will motorise back shut. So yeah, you've got that kind of ducktail rear end, and I think really just this combination, this spec and these wheels really finish this car off nicely. And as you can see, it is quite a practical shape, because whilst it is a little bit bulbous at the back, it does mean that you get that big area for rear headroom and also a nice big opening for your cargo area, as this is a hatchback. So that's always super useful. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think this is a nice styling upgrade over the standard EV6? You can kind of tell there's some more kind of aggressive elements at the front here. I have the running lights off at the moment, but I'll insert some clips just because the camera can be a little bit tricky to pick up the LEDs. But yeah, it looks the part. You do get some nice dynamic indicators as well, which change from the sort of light bar. I just think this thing really looks the part, especially in this spec. But let me know, what do you think? Only thing I would say is I wish there was a little bit more emphasis on the fact that this is a GT and not a GT line. I wish there was kind of like a big green badge or something that differentiated it from the back, but you do get this kind of like kind of accentuated diffuser. So in terms of locking and unlocking the car, you get a pretty standard Kia key, but it does also have the ability to drive the car forwards and backwards in and out of a space, which is nice. And when you unlock the car, it will automatically pop the door handles for you. So when you press the unlock button, you can see they just pop out, and then when you lock it again, they will slot away, which is what they do whilst on the move as well. So then, looking around the interior of the EV6 GT, now it's very familiar to the facelift EV6 model with this kind of new, almost fabric-like plastic material on the dash, which gives it a nice kind of contrast. And also in this one, you have all of the specific lime green accents, like especially here on the steering wheel, you've got the GT button, which activates your most customizable driving mode. And you also got the contrast stitching on here, the 12 o'clock marker on the steering wheel, which is really cool. And then you also get the accents on the seats as well. So you can see with these bucket seats, you have the GT inscription up here, and then you've got this nice kind of suede Alcantara style material in the middle, quite firm, quite supportive. I do kind of miss the adjustment of the standard EV6 seats. Those luxury seats that are in the standard models do have loads of adjustment in terms of lumbar and stuff like that, so I do miss that, but these are super supportive and a nice bit of side bolstering as well for when you're hooning around. And the contrast stitching is just a really nice little detail, and it extends throughout the cabin as well. So that is something that I think is really a differentiator between this and the standard model, especially this button here on the steering wheel. But ergonomics are pretty good. You get these two displays and they are nicely laid out. This one sometimes does get blocked a little bit by the wheel, as you might be able to see here, and you can use the toggles on the steering wheel to cycle through some of that information. If you run you through the GT mode, so when you click it, it will change to this and turn off some of the traction and stability, puts it into like a sportier mode. We can go into the settings here and we can actually change this profile. So we can have a look at the drive profile area, and when we go to, so you've got the option here for launch control, so you can turn that on, and you've also got virtual gear shift mode, which you can change with the button as well. So if I go to my drive mode, so this is the customizable one. So if you press this again, it goes into my drive. So in the my drive mode, you can customize all the different bits individually. So for example, you can change like the stability control, you can have it off completely. You can change the LSD options, suspension firmness, steering. So it's very customizable, or you can just go for the GT mode, which is a pre-configured version of this. I do prefer these newer style Kia wheels. This is very similar to the one you might find in an EV3, for example. Slightly offset Kia logo and lots of nice physical controls, including a star button, which is customizable. So I've got this one here to turn on and off the virtual gear shift mode. And then on the left hand side, you've got the one button sort of lane keep driving assist feature, which I absolutely love on these. You press that, the car will steer itself on the motorway, and you press it to turn it off, and you can hold it for lane keep as well. So that's a really nice touch that's on there. And then of course you've got your media controls on there as well. You do also have your paddles, which are, I think, plastic. They feel like plastic, but look a bit like aluminium. They're okay to press. They're not the best, but they do the trick. And they are for your regen braking modes. You can go between level 0 and then right the way up to iPedal mode, which is your one pedal drive mode. And you can adjust that on the fly, which is really nice. And they also then change to the virtual gear shift mode. So when you then put it into virtual gear shift, you can see then the car has kicked into life with a rev counter, and I can actually rev it. And you get the shift indicator at the top there with this fake engine sound. And then use the paddles to change gear. I'll go on to that in a little bit. Let's turn that off for now. You do get down here as well your parking brake and your traction control button, as well as some other shortcuts and your standard kind of plastic door switches there. And then on this side, you do get a nice open cabin. Part of the thing about this platform is that there's a really nice flat floor. So not only does that extend into the back, but you also get a nice flat floor up front here, which has this large storage area. And then if we look down here, there are also some sockets. So you do get an additional USB-C one there, and then you get your 180 watt 12 volt, as well as the ones for the smartphone integration and a standard wireless charging port there. But floating center console means that you do have loads of space here, and actually it's pretty solid. Like, it does obviously move around a little bit if you really nudge it, but it's not too bad. And you've got your Qi wireless charging pad, and you've got a large storage area in the middle there. as well as some cup holders which do have the little grippers in, which mean that things don't spill around, which is always good. In the middle, they've revised this section, so you've now got a fingerprint reader, so that if you've got different drive profiles, you can switch between them nice and easily. You've got your rotary gear select, which is okay. I do prefer having them dash mounted now, like steering wheel mounted, but that's me being picky. Auto hold, parking, and also your shortcut to your camera. So if I hit the camera, you can see we do actually have 360 cam as standard in this one, as well as we also have the blind spot view monitors. So you can see there when I indicate, it will automatically come up with the cameras, which is a really nice touch. It means that you can really get an idea of what's in the blind spot if you can't see out of the window, so that's cool. There is also a 360 view here, which works pretty well. You can see that it kind of shows me in real time in the space that I'm in, and it stitches the images together from the cameras really nicely to make that happen. We do also have here some touch controls for all of your sort of extra climate. So you've got heated seats and ventilated seats and your heated steering wheel. Unfortunately, they aren't haptic. I would like if they were haptic, but they do make a beep, but you can't really tell what you're pressing when you're driving, which is a bit of a shame. And your start stop button there. But what I do like is they've kept the same climate system. So at the moment it's on climate control, and you have physical buttons and also a power on and off switch, and you can set it to sync and do auto climate. Auto climate also has 3 different speeds, which I really like. And then if you want to change it to shortcuts for your navigation and your infotainment, you just press here and it switches the whole menu, so that it's now like track skip and volume, and you can go through some of your media stuff here, and then with another touch of a button it goes back to this. Again, it would be cool if this had like haptic feedback, because it doesn't. It's literally just like a beep in the infotainment, but it works pretty well, and it means that it keeps loads of controls at bay. But overall, of course, your infotainment screen, as in any Kia Hyundai, is pretty good, pretty solid. This one has an additional performance timer, but you've also got like all of your EV charging stuff in here. Quiet mode, so that if you've got kids asleep in the back, it will turn off the rear speakers. Quite a lot cool little quirks like that. And you've also got a head-up display in this car. It's very good. And of course, combine that with these nice cameras, and you do have a really comprehensive view of what needs to go on here. So no complaints from me really, apart from the fact that this isn't as customizable as many rivals. Definitely not as much as the Genesis stuff if we're sticking to this group of cars. But as I say, in terms of settings, you do also have ambient lighting in here, which you can sort of see runs along there. I'll insert some clips. I've got it set to green because it looks cool and it matches everything. You can change that to pretty much whatever you want. And there's lots of sound adjustment in here as well, because you do have Meridian surround system, which you can see in the pillars there, and also down on the doors, that Meridian surround. You've got 14 speakers. It does sound pretty good, and you do have like a decent EQ and stuff like that as well. So I've kind of scooped it here, got the hi-fi smile going on, and I think it sounds pretty good for what it is. And you do also have some kind of modes for the active sound as well. So in virtual gear shift mode, it will always give you a fake engine sound, but you can also have that in the normal modes if you want them to. But just having a look around it then, I think the green touches are nice. I think the bucket seats are a nice addition to this specific model, and it just is quite an ergonomic design really. I do also like that the glove box is fairly large for this class. Not soft opening though, which is a little bit weird at this price point. No sunroof as well, unfortunately, no pan roof, which is a shame. I would have liked that in here. So then, stepping inside the EV6 GT. Now, much like the standard EV6, you've got loads of room back here, and quite a bit of adjustment as well. So in terms of my headroom, I'm pretty happy at 6 foot. I would like maybe a tiny bit more thigh support, but I'm being super picky, and also it's just because the seats, the bucket seats, are a little bit low, so I can't get my feet fully under them. But loads of knee room. These are in my driving position effectively, so loads of room there. I've got some ventilation. I've got heated seats on the outside here, and they're super comfy, super supportive. I do also have adjustment on the lever, so you can see I can get this right the way forward, or I can also recline it back to its kind of standard position, and it's kind of wide enough that you could realistically fit a third person in here at a push. Literally my only complaint, I think, would be I would prefer this seat to be perhaps a tiny bit higher, or just to have a little bit more thigh support so that I could fully relax. Completely flat floor back here as well, and this is one of the most impressive cars in its class, I think, really, for the rear space, especially because of the way the car is shaped. You've also got the ISOFIX points, which are tucked away in here, so it's quite easy to get to them, and they've got like a reinforced little bit there so that you don't scuff up the fabric too much. And then in the middle, we do also have a pull down area with a sort of cubby there, and it does transform into a sort of cup holder, if that makes sense, but you can just open it up as well, which is pretty cool. And you've also got a ski hatch, so you can pass things through if you need to, and then your standard 60-40 split, so not as versatile as a sort of 40-20-40, but I still think with the ski hatch it is a pretty usable space, especially in terms of the cargo area. So let's take a look in the cargo area. Now this is actually probably one of the best bits about this car, is this massive hatchback. You can see just what a cavernous space this is, and you can also see that there is pretty much no load lip, so it's really nice and easy to get things in and out of here. And you can see we do have a parcel shelf which is retractable and removable, so it's nice and easy to just kind of do that, and so it covers the load area, and you can just pull it and it retracts, and then it's just on kind of these springs, so I can just pull it and that's it, the whole thing comes out. So it's not quite as easy to stow as you might hope, but if I take that out for just a moment, we can see the kind of extra area of this space here. So we do also have 180 watt socket back here, and you do also have some tie hooks, so there's a few practicalities which make it nice and easy to live with. Also ski hatch, very small but does the trick, and these handles, whilst not electric, it will allow you to just yank them and put down these seats completely, and they fold to make a pretty much flat load area. So you can see there is a slight hump there, but really this is a really massive space. I could probably quite comfortably lay down in here even with the front seats in the normal position. You do get a tiny bit of underfloor storage as well, so in here you do get your charging cables. It's quite a straightforward flat load floor and a super practical, super usable space. The only thing worth mentioning is when you go to get in the car, you will notice that you can't just simply lift these up. They have to be done with the handles on the sides, which does mean that it's quite difficult to do as a one-handed operation, and they will lock in the most upright position as well. Right, it's pretty slippery out today, but I'm going to try the launch control. So 3.5 seconds apparently. So GT mode, foot hard on the brake, hard on the accelerator. It says ready. Ooh, I feel it squatting. Jesus Christ. It really started squirreling then as well, but it did a fantastic job. You can really tell that this system likes to be rear biased, and that's nice, it's playful, it's a great characteristic. And I'm driving on the level 1 regen at the moment in GT mode, and I've also got the braking mode set to the sportier setting. I find if you set it to the comfort setting, it makes the regen a little bit slow and unresponsive. I find it a little bit weird coming from my Tesla, which is very immediate. This, I think, needs to be in the sport mode to be able to feel like that. And in terms of the drive modes as well, the GT mode obviously is like the maximum attack mode with that instant shove of torque, and that regen is much more responsive. And I find in this mode, as soon as you come off the accelerator, the car starts to respond to that, whereas in the kind of the standard sport mode or the comfort mode or the eco mode, you take your foot off the accelerator and the car kind of thinks about it, which is a little bit odd, not very reassuring when you're trying to do like a fast overtake or something like that. You don't really want that. You want it to be responding to everything you're doing with your foot. So I tend to like driving it in the sportier settings because of that. It is of course lovely that you can change on the fly the level of regen braking, and I will quite often just put it into the standard sports mode and then have it on one pedal drive, which is called iPedal, so that it responds pretty much like a normal EV, where as soon as you lift off the accelerator it will take you to a complete stop. But at the moment I've got it more freed up to enable some sportier driving. So cruising along in this thing, you see where it gets its GT name. If I put it back down into the more sort of comfortable normal settings, it really softens up. Like the suspension goes a little bit more soft, there's a little bit more body roll I can feel. It's significantly less responsive to my inputs on the pedal, and even with the steering, really it feels a lot more floaty and less direct. And that's kind of where the GT element comes into this. You could do a lot of miles in this car and not really feel like it's punishing you too much, even on these 21-inch alloys. That's partly helped by the fact that the Pilot Sport 4S is a great all-round tyre, but let's be honest, the EV6 already did a really good job of being a kind of everyday car. It's really practical in here, as you've seen already. And in terms of driving ergonomics, I'm pretty happy with it. The driving position does feel a little bit awkward at first, but once you nail it and get it right, and there's lots of adjustment on the steering wheel as well with electric control, it doesn't feel too bad. So you can kind of adapt to it, and it's ergonomic enough in terms of I can reach everything, like the screens are angled towards me, etc. So it's quite a pleasant place to spend a lot of miles, and you could do that in the more comfy modes, but at the press of a button into GT mode, straight away now I've got a lot more, like you can see the immediate response from the throttle there, and it's much more on the attack. And I've got so much customization in terms of how much I can change the suspension, the steering input, and also the kind of throttle response from the electric motors. There's like 3 different settings for each, so you can really tailor it to what you want in the My Drive mode. And in the My Drive mode, you can also select it so that traction is off, and I mean off, to the point where it will prompt you, are you sure about this? Press and hold the button if you're sure. And I'm glad that it does that, because it becomes a bit of a drift machine as soon as you do that. It literally just sets the LSD to let's have some fun, gets rid of all the computer interference, and it lets you just plant the throttle, go into rear-wheel drive mode effectively, and just let loose, so you can drift this thing like nobody's business. And of course you feel the weight, 2.2 tons of it, but you can light up the rear tyres in this thing and have it sideways with absolutely zero effort. I think the improvements to this facelift model, as well as the extra acoustic insulation, does make it quite a pleasant place to spend some time, and it's definitely not quite as hardcore as its sister car, the IONIQ 5N. And I think for some people that will be a great thing, for some people that will be a not so great thing. So if I press the start button on the dashboard, we go into the virtual gear shift mode, and you might be able to hear the fake engine noise, but it gives me a rev counter on screen, and I can now interact with the paddles and use it like a gear shift. So put it into second gear, up through the gears, and you probably saw that then. As I clicked the gear change, it gave me that kind of delay to the input, so it felt like a gear shift, like it cut the power for a split second, so it felt like I was switching gears. Switch down the gear again, I can feel the car kind of slows down a bit, and when you hit the rev limiter, it almost like kicks you in the back. It's not like the IONIQ 5N where it kind of bounces off the limiter. It just feels like I've run out of power. It's a very odd sensation, and just definitely not as well implemented as the IONIQ 5N. Other thing to note with that as well is it only has 6 gears. So on the IONIQ 5N version, it has 8. So you've got a lot more ratios to play with, and you find that you're interacting with it a lot more often, which is half the fun of it really. Whereas in this, it almost feels as though you're kind of restricted to 1 gear for a lot more of the time. Down into second. The fact that it also you can see that the collision warning does get a little bit tense at times, especially if you're in one of the lesser modes that doesn't come off of the power quick enough. But generally, like the lane keep assist and the speed limit warnings and stuff, you can turn them off all quite easily. And of course, you've got your one-touch driving assist feature for the lane keep as well, which is really nice. So it's not too intrusive, especially compared to older Kia cars. Having an electric car with gears, it's interesting how it changes the power delivery as well. It feels much more like a petrol car because the power builds slowly. With an electric car, you get all the torque, all the power all at once, and then it tapers off. Whereas with this mode, it sort of switches it on its head like a petrol car, where it boosts almost like a turbo would, which is really cool. So I'm currently in GT mode, but I do have the traction in the sport setting, because I know if I take this roundabout and give it too much throttle with that off, I'm just going to come out of it sideways, which is not the sensible thing to do on a rainy day. So let's take it semi-sensibly, but in one of the car's sportier settings, and see what she can do. And then give it a little bit more beans on the exit. So let's take her around. Yep, there we go. Whoa, bit of back end action around there, and it grips up like incredibly, and you're already up to speed. It's a really quick car, this, and I mean really quick, and you don't notice it all the time day to day, because you do have to fiddle around with the settings to kind of get it like that. Like if I jump in my Tesla, for example, I just know that it's that fast all the time, and I don't really mess around with like the chill mode and stuff. Whereas in this, to get the proper 0 to 60 time, you have to have launch control active, and you have to have it in the correct mode and so on. It's not just going to do that every time you hit the switch. So there is that element to it as well, but it does make it more subdued for day-to-day driving. And like I said, just being a little less hardcore, a little less firm than the IONIQ 5N, for some people will make it more of a daily driver for sure. Plus I think this is slightly more practical in terms of shape and interior space than an IONIQ 5N as well. But that, in terms of an interactive experience, would be the one that I go for, I'm not going to lie. But that being said, let's get this thing down some twisty roads and see what she can do. I'm going to keep it in its GT mode for the second, just so that I can get a little bit more fun out of it. And I'm going to be quite careful around it because it is very slippery today, but you can see as soon as I put some throttle input in, I'm fighting the car a little bit, and obviously that's the traction control system's really working with me, the electronic limited slip diff, and it all does work rather well indeed. And the computers have been tweaked for this facelift model as well, and you can tell they're less intrusive whilst being more useful. So props to the people who spent the time probably not only testing this car, but also running all of the kind of experiments and the simulations to see how it would respond to certain situations. But yeah, it's really fast. in this GT mode especially, and the braking mode is much better in sport in my opinion. The brakes are brake by wire, and I would call them adequate. They do stop you quite firmly, and they don't really bottom out, which is nice. They don't go spongy like on some EVs, so you've got enough confidence when you're driving this quite hard, but of course it's always got that weight behind it. But obviously you can just tone this thing down if you want to your eco mode, and yeah, it doesn't quite get the range of the rivals. Like if you think like a Model 3 performance Tesla, whilst less power, will be probably as quick as this almost, and also get sort of 320 to 330 miles of range, versus this one getting like 270. So that's quite a significant difference. Also the fact the charging network on that is going to be better as well, but just giving this a little squirt of power every now and then is awesome. And it feels really direct and composed. It's definitely not quite as agile as an IONIQ 5N. I can feel that the body's got a little bit more roll to it. I can feel that I have to place the car a little bit earlier to get the response that I want out of the chassis. But that's not necessarily saying that it's a bad thing at all. Like, it just is a little bit softer, which, as I mentioned many times now, some people will just prefer. For me, being like the petrol head, I think I would prefer the more engaging virtual gear shift system of the IONIQ 5N, just because it is a little bit nicer to play with. I think the implementation in this car almost feels like a beta version of that. Like, it feels like an unfinished and unpolished version of what they were trying to achieve. The sort of proof of concept, if you like, it's there, but it's just not quite refined. Whereas in the IONIQ 5N, it feels like a really true experience. Let's go traction fully off for a second. Wow. No, let's not do that. Oh dear. I think really the price is also a great consideration, like sub 60 grand if you get one of these with like dealer contributions and so on. And that's a lot of bang for your buck. I mean, if you're considering anything from like a Porsche Taycan downwards, I would have a look at one of these as well. A 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty, and is faster in a straight line than the Ferrari. It's quite a prospect when you look at it like that, isn't it, really? But then if you don't need this level of power, or the virtual gear shift, or any of the ridiculous drifting features, then maybe a standard EV6 is right for you. It's worth checking out my review on that too. So there we go, guys. That is the EV6 GT, an absolute monster of an electric car, and something that can be had for reasonable money considering its vast performance. But if you wanted hardcore, I would say look for the IONIQ 5N. That's probably the one you want to go for. Thanks to Kia as always for sending out the car. I really do appreciate it. Thanks to you all for all the likes, comments, subscriptions. It really does go a long way. You don't even know. So please hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.